shining stars of this industry who have been exporting from India. And well, we have them in our session, and they will share their experience on how they developed world-class defense equipment and what they need to become global leaders in export. Encouraging these spirited entrepreneurs and more of that disposition can propel India to attain the position of an export hub of defense equipment rather than having to face the ignominy of being the largest importer of defense equipment.
We've been talking about indigenous design and manufacturing, and there's been discussion about, people in India who've been working for 20 years. I mean, there have been lots of people here who started way too early, unfortunately. Good example, data patterns. I think the time when you started was not as progressive as right now. So you had to work really hard for 20, 25 years. So that made it very easy for people like us who started in the last 10 years, right? So that's the only reason. The reason why we see success faster is because you were at the right time. And part of what I'd like to touch upon this, and given the experience and background, is a lot of us, when we build in India, when you look at MSMEs, the only thing which comes to mind is a little shop which is in Ghaziabad, Faridabad, Pune and Bangalore, in Chennai, who are machining stuff, building components, going to DIIA. It's like we're talking about companies which are doing 10 lakhs, 20 lakhs in revenue, and who are basically struggling to make ends meet, right? And you want to build a big business, build large ecosystem, you need to think big, right? You cannot, if you start ground up, unless you get really lucky, there's no way in hell you're going to be $1 billion company, right? So there are only two ways to do it, right? You either are supported by the government, like in the US, where there are government programs which helps build these MSMEs to come up, or you are privately funded, which is focusing on building products which are competitive and you can export them all around the world. Right? And the session here, given the fact that the government does not have the wherewithal to put in that kind of money, the next best option is obviously how do you create an ecosystem by yourself and you export. And because export, see, the problem with defense is that defense has its ups and downs, right? I mean, you can't hope that every year you're going to have 100, 200 crores of business. There are going to be down periods. If you can create a business which is not just for India, but which is competitive enough to sell anywhere in the world, because quite honestly, right, selling in India is not a very hard problem. It's a valley of the blind, right? I mean, you're a one-eyed man, you will be the king here. There's no problem at all, right? If you say that, look, I can build a product here, take it into Europe, not sell it to Nepal or sell it to Sudan or sell it to any of those guys, right? Take it into a developed nation, take it into Europe, take it to the US, and you're able to make sales there. Automatically sales follow in India, because it's quite a natural progression. They think that you're good enough to, if they are good enough to buy from you, we might be good enough to buy from you as well, right? So the idea is to just talk about experiences of my co-panelists here, their experience in building an export-centric ecosystem, why that's been beneficial. It's definitely been beneficial to us, but I'll come to us last. But I'd like to understand from both Tejas and Kumar to hear that how you can do it.
Thank you, Arvind. I'm Rajiv Mahajan, and I represent this company called Tejas Networks. And just to share with you, though people keep on talking that selling in India is difficult and then exporting is even difficult, but just to share with you that we were lucky enough that we did good sale in India, and we are today doing around 51% of our turnover as exports. And we are selling to more than 60 countries worldwide, right? In India, we are deployed in almost all the networks in the country, and we are also selling to defense. But how did we achieve this? See, the biggest point which we have been discussing since morning is building our own IP, which is very, very important. We build our own IP, and we have a huge R&D team here in India to build the products. And when we approach to the industry or to our potential customers and to defense, yes, we also faced a lot of challenges. But I think what was good with us that we had a team and who were ready to hold on, and we kept on fighting. We kept on pushing people who were not letting us in, and finally we succeeded. And after one sale, second sale, third sale, today most of the networks in India are our own customers. But coming back to what is very, very challenging and what is very, very difficult. See, if you look at last few years, our previous government and even this government, both of them or even governments before, everyone is talking of technology development, IPR creation, products being developed. We are doing this Make in India in the country, which is a huge program which we are talking about. But where are the companies who are able to do this? the issue is only one. The issue is that access to market is a big challenge for our domestic companies today. There is this policy which was launched, that preferred market access, which gave a complete flavor where Indian companies will be able to sell to government customers. Defense at that point of time said that they want to do more than PMA. That's why they will not be part of this. And similarly, they came out with this DPP, which is Indigenous Design and Development Manufacturing concept, which has come up. But who are the people who are really pushing this implementation? There is a big network which Defense is building, which is where it was very clearly defined that it has to be built on domestic products. Everyone is aligned, there is technology, but when it comes to selling those products, there is a clear-cut mandate which has to be given to the authorities to ensure that if anyone is not implementing the policies which are already there, they should be penalized. There are policies which are supporting domestic industry, and domestic industry is capable. It is just that last-ditch effort when the orders are there on table, people find way to wriggle out of these policies. I think if we are able to manage those situations, and if we are able to ensure that those last situations are handled, lot of Indian companies will come up and they will be flushed with orders. And I think that is what I want to really harp on. If you look at countries like US, as Arvind has just mentioned, there are government policies which give those manufacturers price advantage, unfair price advantage. I will say that they can go up to even 50% of the L1 price to give orders to domestic companies. In our country, there is a mandate for L1. Still, Indian companies are not getting orders. So might be we need to raise our voice as we are doing here and make this as a force to ensure that those policies are implemented.
Yeah, I take a different view here. Actually, from the point of view, we have started as an Indian company, and we started exporting about 3 years back. We have found it very difficult to sustain ourselves. We have been working around 6 international exhibitions with no government support. And if you see in developed countries like America or UK, everybody has an organization which is driven by a government policy to promote, in spite of they are unable to provide sufficient opportunities for these manufacturers in their country. They are able to project these companies elsewhere. So ultimately, the companies are growing, the markets are being served very well. But the unfortunate thing in India today is maybe there are a few exporters who are doing it on their own with not a great initiative from government. The major lessons what we have also looked around the world, DIIA is the UK pioneer thing, which is a government-driven organization which will do hand-holding and take all these people who have the capability, go and sell elsewhere where there is an opportunity for them to promote. And from viewpoint of Indian economy point of view or Indian defense offsets point of view, I see a very bright chance for Indian government to do so, because we always say, oh, offsets is an issue. Offsets, we are putting an obligation on the foreign technology partner to provide some facilities for or give an opportunity to Indian industry. But at the same time, if we are unable to project right people from India to them to offset their offset obligations, ultimately billions and billions of offsets have been accumulated which have not been credited. So ultimately my point of view is, unless Indian MSME or small scale industries are taken held by government and project these people to those large organizations which have done some major projects and they have this offset obligation, it would be a win-win situation for the Indian MSME who are looking for an opportunity. At the same time, the foreign partner who came with the technology and did big jobs also finds it interesting for him that he is having a win-win situation, whereby he is trying to promote the Indian company elsewhere or the country of their origin, or he can promote the Indian company maybe on similar projects they are doing with different countries, so the offset obligation is fulfilled.
So actually, in the context of export, really, right, in terms of how you're exporting outside, just an incidental note, and I was with General Saha yesterday, and I was narrating this incident. Before we sold in India, right, and the way in which I came back to India in 2004 to set up an indigenous industry to talk about defense systems, and it was very hard to sell it to India, right, and my first port of call was DRDO, right, and I didn't know better at that time, and the idea was that DRDO would be like DARPA, where you go and say, let's pitch technology ideas, they will help you productize it. It's a pretty slow process in India. So we said, well, let's make the product, sell it outside, export it. There were 5 countries who bought it before India actually bought this. Right? And even now it's kind of a shame that more than 80% of our business is exported outside. I sell to multiple countries around the world, but India buys only 20% of what we make. And the problem is a little bit more endemic, right? It's, I think, the question of how do companies in India export outside, right? To export outside, you need to have capital. There is no two ways about it. Government cannot support you. I mean, government, sure, the countries like Israel, government takes those little companies around, showcases them. I think India is a large country, right? Access to capital is not hard in India. I mean, people are funding all kinds of crazy ideas, right? People are funding apps, people are funding software. So raising capital in India, if you have a good novel idea and a good product and a decent business plan, is not very hard. Right? I mean, we have companies which have gone public. Ashok's company went public, Astra went public. There are examples of Indian industry which have gone in. So I think there's got to be a mechanism for us to be self-sufficient, to build a product, reach a level of maturity, sell internationally, establish credibility. Automatically the Indian industry would follow. Because I think the Indian government's challenge also is that traditionally what's happened to them is everybody in India says that we can build it, right? They'll say, this is easy, why are you spending so much of money, I'll build it. DRDO said it, PSU said it. But from a government's point of view, they are let down. I mean, the army would say, look, I've invested 30 years in this particular program, 25 years in this program. What have I got at the end of it? If I couldn't trust a government body to deliver in the 25 years, how can I trust a private body to be able to deliver this in the same period of time or even lesser period of time? So building that credibility, whether it's internally or externally, that has to be done in some form. And if it happens through exports first, so be it. You export first, then the Indian government will follow.
Arvind, I'll take it from what you're talking about. See, the intent of this discussion is that what do we as a country do to ensure that we have more exports and companies like all of us are able to do much better in international market. See, we had experience of selling worldwide in big countries. And since ours was a huge project-based products, which is basically creating infrastructure, so sale was even tougher. And our competition used to be all international big giants like Ericsson, Nokia, Cisco, and then the new Huawei's and ZTE's, these Chinese vendors. See, the difference where our industry is really needing support, as Mr. Rao mentioned. Today, if there is an international deal which is big enough, you will find countries really backing up their industries. If there is a deal happening in, let's say, Australia, you will have ambassadors from US, you will have ambassadors from China, everywhere talking to customers, meeting them like this is their responsibility or this is their venture. Whereas if you look at our country, like we have seen situations where we are sitting alone, fighting it out, pleading our case, and we are seeing government sitting across us. And when we approach our embassies or ambassadors, they will say, no, we cannot support private sector. Private sector is not our baby. So that mindset need to really change. And if that change happens, then only we will see industry coming up. Then only we will see we being a global force as most of the countries are becoming. Another example. Let's say India has started talking of a lot of LOCs, line of credits. And in line of credits, we have given more than $1 billion to Bangladesh. We have given huge money to Myanmar, Nepal, to African countries. African countries, I think our LOC is more than $10 billion. If any other country, let's say China, if they give LOC, line of credit, they will ensure that their products are sold in that country. The government will mandate that if this money is going to that country, our products should be deployed there. Whereas in our case, we will have LOC given, and with those LOCs, we will ship products from foreign countries. Indian companies who have built the product, they have built the technology, they will not get any support. Again, change in mindset is needed. Third, there are we keep on talking of huge international events where multiple countries companies from worldwide participate, and you see pavilions of those countries as a showcase where government lead those pavilions, and SMEs, MSMEs, and even bigger companies, they become part of those pavilions. Whereas if you go to these international forums, Indian pavilions will be hardly anything because the focus again is missing. So what I want to really point out, I appreciate with Arvind that yes, we need to stand up and do things on our own, but on our own we cannot win. We need support of government, and we need this mandate very clear in minds of everyone that they have to support industry, they have to support private sector, which is missing today.